Thank you for joining the San Diego ATD Chapter's Get Good with Articulate Storyline, also presented through ISPI SoCal. I am John Morley, an instructional design consultant. So if I can help you with a project, my email address is going into the chat window. Nobody knows everything about Storyline, especially me. So tonight we are very fortunate to have with us someone who knows a whole lot about not just Storyline, but how to transfer that knowledge to other people. That would be Ron Price with Yukon Learning. Ron has over 35 years of experience in organizational effectiveness, leadership coaching, instructional design, spiritual development, and experiential learning, which we're talking about this evening. His background has helped Ron support schools such as Duke University's Fuqua School of Business, Harvard Business School, and multinational companies, including Sanofi Pharmaceutical, Amazon, BP, and PepsiCo. In 2002, Ron founded Relationships, a consulting firm and outdoor challenge course devoted to developing and maintaining authenticity and integrity, things that he certainly demonstrates. Since 2008, Ron has been with Yukon Learning, developing the certified training programs for Articulate itself. Ron enjoys facilitating training sessions, such as this evening, and designing e-learning solutions for Yukon customers. But he sees his real job as working to maintain Yukon's best-in-class culture. With that, Ron, what type of experience do you have for us this evening?
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I sound better on that bio than I probably am going to be. So you've gotten the best so far. All right. Everyone should just be seeing a pretty blank slide that says experiential exercises using Storyline. So thank you for being here. I'm always fascinated that people take some time out of their schedules to attend different sessions. I was telling John earlier, we did a lunch and learn this past Monday for our first one here in the Carolinas area. And we had 8 people come, and I was very pleased with that. Even though we thought we had like 17 or so say they were coming, but when you all of a sudden Monday rolls around, you have no idea what's going to be happening in your lives. So the fact that you're here is a good thing. So thank you for being here. You can use chat really to answer, just to give me an idea of, what you would rate your comfort level. And, we can do a lot. Just do a number like, 1 through 4 here would help me if you don't want to type anything else out. And this gives me an idea of what our audience comfort level is. Let me put it that way. So we've got a 4. That's good. Less than 1. 1, 3, 1, and a 4. Okay, good. Yeah, so we're on the extremes mostly. There were the what is Storyline. That's the one extreme, and the proficient and efficient developer is the other. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about some theory, I guess, first, and some of the understanding of what we're talking about when we say experiential exercises. And then we're going to open up Storyline. And I'll show you an example I built. And a lot of this came from a webinar that Tom Coleman and I did together for Training Magazine 2 or 3 years ago. And so I'm just going to share a couple of the slides here that I put together, and then we'll open up Storyline. And to get us started, when you're thinking about the concept of interactivity, and you can use unmute and say this if you want to, or use chat. What would be a good definition for you, or when you think about interactivity? What do you think about interactivity? What is a good definition for you?
Within the context of your presentation, I would think of it as effortful recall, to have the learner respond with something that they didn't know until they experienced the learning that you're presenting to them.
Okay. Yeah. So that be able to recall. I see in the chat engaging with hands-on. That's a big thing that when we teach Storyline and Rise in our classes, a lot of people ask, well, what's the difference between what you do at Yukon as the training partner and what we can get just by going on to the community? Is we do try to emphasize the hands-on, structured hands-on portions of that. And that hands-on is a key element of that. Interactive means the audience does not get to go Do like your dog. Oh, very good, Vince. I like that. Yeah. So, yeah, if you've ever had somebody snore on you and you're presenting something, my background, in full disclosure, I'm an ordained minister, and I used to pastor this small country church. And the old man that actually was the janitor for our church, he would always confess his sleeping during a sermon, and I would be leaving. He would walk up to me and say, "I trusted you today." That's how he would say it. "I trusted you today." That meant I slept through your sermon. I didn't stay awake to hear what you had to say. So if someone says, "Yeah, I trusted you," that means they weren't listening the whole time. That's good. So hopefully you won't trust me tonight. You'll pay attention and question everything that we're doing. Ability to engage as they're absorbing information. Yeah, I think that's you're all around different concepts of that. And that's really, when we're thinking about it, we're thinking about two buckets. And one of those is the tactile, the doing something, which you've mentioned in an e-learning. A lot of times that's like clicking or selecting something or hovering or dragging. So there's that physical hands-on portion of doing. If you're in a classroom, that could be a lot of different things, breaking up into discussion groups. It could be solving a problem together. It could just be pairing up and two people having a conversation, something to get people in out of that pedagogy where you're just listening to a lecture, but you're more engaged in some other form of interactivity. Obviously, my background being owning an experiential ropes course or challenge course for so many years, we were just always throwing people into a problem they had to solve, or putting them in a harness and they're having to climb up a tree and cross cables, and everything was very physical. And, the other side of the coin was, well, did we learn anything? Sure, I clicked on a bunch of stuff or I dragged a bunch of things, but was there learning that happened? So the other bucket that can create interactivity are those, decision making, the thought part of interactivity, where I think sometimes we make a mistake where everybody, I think there is a definite need for e-learning to be interactive. And I think some people with that pressure, they just start creating interactivity without giving it any thought. So it becomes purposeless. It's busy work, or we did it, but it doesn't make sense. Why did we have to do it? I don't understand why you're making me click on this button. It's so there's a lot of things you realize or might not have the meaning you want it to have, where the real meaning might be in those things that cause people to think differently. And I've seen some very engaging presentations just by someone asking a question. So what do you think this means? And then it causes you to think. We follow Jay McTighe and Grant Wiggins' work in a book called Understanding by Design. And one of their principles is always asking people to rethink and revise what they think about the topic. So if you're presenting a topic that you already know your users are checking out, you already know they don't want to take this topic. If there's a way that you can challenge them to think differently, like you thought you knew about bloodborne pathogens, but maybe you don't. And if there's some way of you getting that level of engagement, that's interactivity as well. It's a mental interactivity, and it might not have anything to do with the physical touch of something. But if they can both work in concert together, you can really build some dynamic interactivity. It's not, someone wrote, Alicia, the click with a purpose, that it has a meaning behind why we're doing what we're doing. And hopefully that will make a difference in how we present. The other bucket, and this is something that Tom, if you've ever followed Tom Coleman, he'll talk about this for a long time. I'm just teasing. Tom's a great friend of mine. But Tom likes to talk about the push versus pull understanding of interactivity or engagement. So when you see that phrase, push versus pull, what comes to your mind? What do you think we're talking about?
Requires initiative to go out and grab something rather than having it imposed on you.
Yeah, I mean, that's really it. I mean, and still a lot of the interactivity we're building, and I'm going to show you some examples of that, we're still, as a designer, we're controlling what the user sees and when they see it for the most part. where pulling might be where you don't give them all that information up front, and they're put into a position of thinking, do I have the resources to do what I need to do? And do I know how to get those resources, or what would I do in this situation? And it's where scenarios get very popular. But it creates this opportunity for people to think differently. I'm not saying push information is wrong, because we do a lot of it, because it does create that tactile interacting with the slide. It's one of the things we're having to do, and I joke about this a lot. If you're a really good presenter and you have all the skills for that, and you're good looking and you're funny and you're bald, those are the top three presentation skills. Well, if you're in an e-learning module, you're not there. So the interactivity is a lot of what it's doing is replacing the energy that normally a facilitator brings to the room. That facilitator is bringing a great deal of social capital just by their presence. And that's why so many activities and so many things I've seen people do. And I've had to work with subject matter experts to say, I know you do this in the classroom and it's very effective. It's not going to work in e-learning because of these, and I give them the reasons why. So it's a different environment. So how do you create that energy and that interactivity? So pushing versus pulling is a neat way of thinking about, is there a way for me to maybe not tell them everything, and instead of let them go get what they need? And it might be even a scavenger hunt feel to it, if that was something that you were interested in possibly exploring or creating. I think of the concept of an escape room and all of those things that people do. There are things and decisions to be made and problems to solve that we might have to go find the information we need to pull that off. So how does that look? What does it look like in a tool like Storyline? So let's just talk about the mechanics. When you're in Storyline, typically interactivity is going to be some sort of click to reveal, or select to reveal, or a click to jump. If you're building like an interactive menu, you're usually doing something like that, and the tool will show you what we mean, and you're going to be using triggers to do those things. There's sometimes you're just mousing over. Mousing over is a very common interactivity piece. It's becoming less common, I guess, now with some of the accessibility needs that are out there. Most people are not putting crucial information in a mouse over, but that same information can be available if the user tabs to it. It could be in the alternate text. So I think it's still fine to use mouse overs, and as long as whatever's in the mouse over is also in your alt text of your object, then you can even meet those accessibility standards. And then drag and drop. That's a common one. It's also one that accessibility has probably changed the way a lot of people think about doing drag and drop, because if someone has a sight deficiency or a motor skill deficiency, they might have difficulty in clicking and dragging something. So there are other alternative ways of doing those kinds of things. And then the concept of variables for those more complex needs that some people have. And those are typically the four practical things people need to get their heads around in Storyline when they're going to be building experiential activities. So I've put something together, and I'm going to play it for you. I'm just going to play the course, and it's going to kind of walk you through what if we're presenting this content, and then what if we wanted to take this content and push it to the learner in a way or two, and then what if we wanted to pull it, and then we'll go in and open up Storyline and look at how those elements were built. Any questions about any of that before we open up Storyline?
Not real clear on the variables. I know what a variable is in programming, but how does this create interactivity with the learner?
Yeah, so we'll show you at least one of those in my sample, but a variable is something where if they type in their name, if you wanted to customize the programming, you could store that information. So that becomes, we didn't put that in my sample that I'm going to be doing, but that's a common one for a lot of people going, oh, hey, before you begin, and I can pull up some samples that we've built at Yukon if you're interested in seeing variables at work. I have a ton of them that I can easily show you how we've used variables to create different levels of interactivity. And they're actually kind of nice options. So I'll pull up a couple of those and have those ready to show as well, and because there'll probably be maybe a little bit of time at the end to answer that question. But yeah, variables can be a neat way of immersing the user into the story a little bit more. So especially with text variables, we can do things like that. So let me pull up my story. I'll pull up my storyline. So I put this together the other day. I had built something like this a while back for the thing Tom and I did, but I'm going to show you the example of it first. Let me let it play. So here's a sample that I built, and this first one is us presenting content. All the images I generated with AI, just so you know, and it's pretty simple to do this kind of stuff these days. So here it goes. And the voice is an AI-generated voice in Storyline. Since some of you were brand new to Storyline, Storyline is a slide-based authoring tool. So it's laid out similar to a PowerPoint, like you have Canvas, then you have another canvas, and you have another canvas. So what we're looking at now is a slide, and it has an audio narration that's going to drive this slide.
As a manager here at NewCo, it is important that you know what to do in cases of harassment. Pay attention to signs of harassment, like inappropriate comments, unwanted advances, or anything that makes the workplace feel uncomfortable. Make sure to jot down what happens, including dates, times, locations, and who was involved, plus any witnesses who saw it go down. Take complaints seriously and handle them quickly and confidentially. Let the person know you've got their back and will keep things private. Investigate the situation fairly by gathering all the info and viewpoints from everyone involved to really get a grasp on what's going on. Take the right actions based on what you find out, making sure the consequences fit the company rules and the seriousness of the behavior.
So not a bad presentation. We're controlling what they see and when they see it, what they hear and when they hear it. And that's most slides in Storyline. You don't build every slide to be interactive. If you do, your learners, I'll go ahead and tell you, are probably begging you not to. I mean, they're probably going, please don't make me click on another button. I just want to stop for a little bit. So finding that balance is kind of a nice thing. So the industry standard is every 3 to 5 slides, there's something for the user to do or something for them to think about differently. I tend to not go by the industry standard. I tend to think of it as, what does my content demand? My content may be better told, or it may be better discovered. And so sometimes I'm thinking about that. Would this, if I have you discover this, and then after you go through all the interaction I built up, you're going, really? You made me do all of those things to learn that? You could have just told me that. You could have told me that in like 10 seconds. Why did you make me do all this work? But then there are other things that I know if I told you, it's just not going to have any staying power, that it's going to be better if you discovered it, if you figured it out. So this is a non-interactive slide. So what typically people do, the next phase of this puzzle is to create interactivity, and it might look something like this.
As a manager here at NewCo, it is important that you know what to do in cases of harassment. Select each icon to learn more.
So now you're in a similar type setting, and then there's a select and reveal. This doesn't have audio if you're not hearing it, but you are seeing the states change here. And as a stakeholder, they may have went, well, I don't want them to leave any of this behind. So we even added, if you click next, you're going to get a message saying you have to view all the items. This is the typical thing we see, the typical thing we build. We've built tons of slides like this. Even if we want to do something different, a lot of times you're not the one paying for it. So somebody who's paying for it is going, hey, we need to make sure they see all this content. And so now we're going to show them all this content. Once they see all the content, they can move forward. So it's the same content, a little bit of a different approach. It's less narration coming at you and more of you clicking to see what you want to see and when you want to see it. You could have even clicked on these in different order. We didn't really care, but we were going to make sure you selected them all. And there are other ways of doing that. So, for example, the next slide is very similar.
As a manager here at NewCo, it is important that you know what to do in cases of harassment. Drag the pointer down to explore some of the most important steps.
So now this one is just, we have a little pointer, and as you drag the pointer, you're getting the same. It's just a different type of interaction. So some people prefer one over the other. This is, if you're familiar with Storyline, this is just a slider is all it is. And it's just turned up on its end and just with a custom pointer. But the same exact behavior. These are still push type interactions. So let's think about what a pull interaction might be like. Something like this.
During a team meeting, you observed Alex repeatedly interrupting Jamie and making inappropriate jokes about their appearance. Jamie appeared visibly uncomfortable, but chose to remain silent, which raised your concern about the impact on their relationship and the work environment. What's your next move?
So the whole what's your next move thing, I could go in here and just answer, and you'll see these states changing here. Fine. But then there are all the information that we were pushing on them earlier is over here in these little tabs they can pull out. We haven't even mentioned them. But they're there. And it's just like at work, they have resources available to them. They don't always consult those resources before they make a decision. They should, because if they make the wrong decision here, it could be costly in a situation like this. So then they can come in and go, well, let me consult a peer. And we go, okay, that's interesting. Do you think someone should check in with Jamie? Maybe that's something I should do to pull that off. So if I'm thinking I know now, I can go ahead and say, I'm going to reach out to Jamie to confirm my suspicions. But maybe I want to go, well, what does the policy say? So then I can come in and read the policy here. Or maybe I go to HR. And so then the HR director is talking to me about this. But even they've added, I want to confirm that you've spoken to Jamie about this. So that I'm starting to get some hints in here going, there may be an answer in here that might be better. Maybe make a note in both of their files to keep an eye on future encounters. Maybe I don't do anything. Maybe I reach out to Jamie. So I'm going to reach out to Jamie for now and hit submit, and I got it correct. But would I have done that naturally? I don't know. But that's now the pull concept coming in, because we didn't tell you all of this information up front, but we let you know as a manager, you have a lot of resources at your disposal. How do you want to use them? And so we let them kind of take it away and run with it. So that's kind of the end of that sample. And I've got a couple of other options in here. If we have time, I'll show you those. But let's go back into Storyline and just walk through, since we have a variety of expertise in the room, walk through how that was built. So really all we showed was these first 4 slides of this scene. I've got a JavaScript interaction in here we'll look at here in a little bit, and also one using an app generator by Google, just so you can see that things are changing and there are more ways of building interactivity now. So I'm just going to come in here and open up the first one. The first one is pretty straightforward. Again, for those of you who are new to Storyline, we're building a slide, and it's a canvas. And then we're down here in the timeline. I'll pull this up. We get to control when things appear in the timeline. If I can get my mouse to click on the right thing. There we go. So you'll see all of these things here are coming in at different times. We have an audio transcript here. We have cue points, and we're just controlling what they see and when they see it. That's all that's happening here. Nothing spectacular at all. The interactive element, which is usually one of the reasons people like to use Storyline. It's easy to build kind of select and reveal options. This is a straightforward one. Same kind of message pops up, and you can see on the timeline that it disappears after a certain time. So for now, I'm just going to turn on the timeline visualization tool so that we can just drag this and you can see it, that it appears, and then it goes away, and then these things appear. So now this is where we are in the build. And each of these items are separate items. And if you notice when I select these, you'll see things highlighting over here. Each one of these has a couple of triggers on them. One of them is not affiliated with us doing anything with it. It's just moving the item, and you may have seen that. I'll show it to you on the first slide. We tend to do a lot of engagement with people through visuals. And so we do a lot with animation at Yukon. So you'll notice each of these items, when they come in, they're going to fade in and then shift a little bit, fade in and shift a little bit. And so I'll just show it to you on the first slide so you can kind of get a sense of that.
As a manager here at NewCo, it is important that you know what to do in cases of.
So each of these items, see, as they come in, they're going to shift toward each other. These next, this one's going to come in this way, and this is going to slide this way. See how that does that? Is it earth-shattering? No, but we think it adds a little nuance to the slide. And so you'll see that our team gets pretty peculiar about their animations. And so that's why there are two triggers over here. That's the whole point of that. But the other trigger is a show layer when the user clicks that interaction. So this is the trigger that's creating the interaction or the experience on this particular slide. And basically each of the layers basically has, I'm going to turn off the timeline visualization so you can see that. Each of the layers has a text box on it. Most of the time when people are showing layers, the other items disappear. But one of the things that we like about layers is that they have properties. So if I select all of the layers, I can adjust those properties. And a small adjustment we made here was turning that off, that visibility selector off, so that it doesn't hide the other layers. By default, it's on. So that way it cumulatively built. You might remember when we played that slide in here, each of them developed as we clicked on them. So if I preview this again.
As a manager here at NewCo, it is important.
You select one. Normally, when you show another layer, this one would go away, but we left them to be a cumulative build. So those are really the only things we've done here, nothing too spectacular. And then for the slider, we did the same thing. It's still showing those layers. The only thing that we did is we still wanted to use that error message to make sure that they slid to the bottom. And so that's good. That's trickier with a slider because we can't say in here on this slide, it was easy to add a trigger to the next button. I'll pull this up for you. That's saying jump to the next slide. This is what triggers are. They have an action. So what do you want to do? And then they have a when. When do you want to do it? And then in some triggers, like this one, there are conditions. And the conditions we set was, have they clicked on all of the buttons? So only jump if everything's been visited. And then if ever you use conditions on a trigger, this is a newer feature, been out only about a year and a half, 2 years, is there's now the else option here. And so jump if the conditions are met. If they're not met, show another layer, and that's the error layer. This is a common build. I would imagine if you're building interactivity in any course at all, you're building something similar to this. If the subject matter expert or the stakeholder has said, it's really important that they look at all the layers before they move on. We probably get this request more than anything.
Are the conditions the variables that you were talking about earlier?
No, these are not variables, actually. We're going to show you a variable here in a minute. These are actually, each of these buttons have a state.
Oh, right.
And that's a visited state. And a visited state happens automatically. So you don't see any triggers over here to change it to a visited state. You should never see that, actually. If you ever look at a course and it says change this to visited when you click on it, that person's probably misusing that unless it's a really extremist circumstance. Most people should never see that. So it automatically happens. So the fact that we clicked on every one of them, then we could, with confidence, say only go if they're all visited. Well, where that creates another problem, though, when we're using a slider, because we're not selecting these items. I just copied the slide so they still have the visited state, but their behavior isn't to click on them, it's to drag the slider. So a common thing somebody might say is, well, let's add that same jump to next slide. And this is a 0 point on the slider. I'll come in here. This is actually not the slider. I've covered up the slider. There's the slider. This is the 0 point on the slider, and the slider has 5 steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some people might say, well, we'll tell them to jump to the next slide as long as the slider value equals 5. But that would not work if they dragged it to, if I do that, let me just go ahead and change that. Because this is the little stuff you have to play with when you're doing different types of interactions. I'll just create a new trigger that says jump to the next slide when the user clicks next under the condition that the slider is actually arrow, is equal to the value of 5. Well, here's the problem with that. I'm just going to insert a recall of that variable up here.
Sorry, Ron, you had it when the user clicks. You didn't say when you click next. You said like when it starts on the timeline or something. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I was going too quick. Jump to slide, yeah, when the user clicks next. Good deal. Super. Good catch. I am not getting that text box to draw. There it is. I don't know why it wasn't drawing here a second ago. I'm just going to insert the reference, then move it. If you do play much with Storyline, text boxes are a little finicky. If they don't have anything in them, they'll just disappear on you. So just typically got to put something in it before you can move it. So now when I preview the slide, just to show you I'm showing you why we didn't do it this way, is that's 0.
As a manager here at NewCo, it is important.
As I drag it, see it's adding to that. So this is great. Now it equals 5. So if I were to click next now, it would work. But what if they slid back one accidentally? It's now no longer equaling 5. So it wouldn't work. It would feel like it. So I would have to change this to like, well, anything above 0, but then it means they could go next even if they just viewed one of them. So that's really not what I wanted. So that's why we didn't use that trigger. And we actually did create a variable. And so we do have one variable here on this slide that says set this variable to true when it equals 5. So then when it goes back to 4, it's still already set to true. It won't change back. And that, therefore, we could now change this trigger to say only jump when it equals true. And if not, it's not using variables for something like this is pretty bomber. Some people do it instead of set of the states anyway, just because it's one condition on this trigger. But they would have to have another trigger that says change it to true and all the states equal visited. So either way, it's a similar amount of work, but some people like that cleaner look here. But with a slider, we had to do it. But the one I wanted to focus on was this one here. This one has a lot more going on. One, we turned it into a quiz question, which means we have form view and slide view. And by default, we have the ability to turn on feedback by choice, which allows us to give customized feedback based on the choice they made. So when you're doing scenarios like this is a really nice feature to be able to give that feedback based on the decision they made. And when you're building a quiz question in Storyline, you are filling in blanks. So that's very helpful. It makes it pretty easy. It turns those blanks into slides and layers. So here are the layers that we didn't have to build. But then we added some additional layers. And those were based on these little items that came off on the side. Everything else is functioning the same. There's a timeline. Items are coming in at different times, but this time we're not even giving them any content. We're just saying, hey, you've witnessed a situation. What's your next move? That phrase, what's your next move? What's your best move? What should you do now? Those are really great questions to ask a learner, because then they have to tap into, do I know what to do? And if they know what to do, great. If they don't know what to do they know how to get the information so they do know what to do? That's the pull that we're trying to reach. What if I don't know what to do? Do I know how to get it? And it could be that you've armed them with other resources to do that. In our case, we just put in some little folder tabs here, as if they were reaching into their filing cabinet or they were making a call or whatever they might be doing. The thing that's a little bit different here, I don't know if you've noticed it, and again, it's a little bit of that animation, over analyzing animation that we do sometimes.
During a team meeting,
is if you select this object, it slides out, and when you go to close it, it slides back in. And that's a nice to have, not a have to have. And most people would not go to the trouble to do that, except for people who have been brainwashed by our quality team that's always wanting something to be better than the next thing. So to do something like that, there's a lot of different ways of doing it. The way that I did it, that I think is pretty bomber, is for every layer we created, like the consult layer, the policy layer, and the HR layer. I don't know how I must have clicked and dragged that one to bring it down. I have an out version of the same layer. And so when you're clicking on this hotspot, it doesn't hide the layer, which is normally what you would do. You just say, click and hide the layer. It's actually showing the HR out layer, and that has exit animations on it, and it just automatically hides. So is the juice worth the squeeze? That's up to you to decide as you're building it. You know, if you're building hundreds of these slides, you might go, yeah, I'm not doing that. But if you're only building a few, you might think that gives me an extra little bit of value to this process. So that's kind of under the hood. I know for those of you who are new, that's a lot of stuff there, but there are some other things to consider, which we can look at. But I'll stop for a moment to see what kind of questions are surfacing.
Well, building on what you're kind of doing here is a quote I like is, if you want an audience, start a fight. So a technique I like to use is start a lesson with an argument to build on what you have here. Show harassment during a meeting, then cut to two people talking about what should we do. They have different ideas about what they're doing. Somebody wants to report it, the other person that doesn't. So then you stop and ask the audience, the learner, what do you think is right? So that engages them in making the decision, and depending on their answer, the lesson proceeds.
Yeah, it's a great way. And to get back to your question you asked earlier, I'll pull up this example of how variables can be used for interactivity. This is when we built for IATA, and
welcome to Module 2.
I'm just going to skip ahead, but IATA actually, they're not the reason you're having these delays at the airport, but they're dealing with it. But they're the ones that are behind all the ticketing, the machinery that does the ticketing and all of that. So if I were to come in here and do, there's an introduction in here, and then as I go through the passenger process, eventually it's going to ask me to check in. So I'm going to come over here and check in.
Passes without.
And I get to put in let me go back in here actually and put in my,
welcome to.
I'll get to the piece where I can put in my name. That helps first. If I can spell my name. I have a new keyboard. I spilled coffee on my keyboard the other day and it fried and I had to go get a new one, and it's just different enough to mess with me. I'm a horrible typist anyway, but so let's say I've got that done. I put in my name. They're talking about this variable now.
Welcome back.
And if I get into the check-in,
For speaking to an airline agent.
I can type in my reservation number, 123. 123. A, B, C. Hit submit. And it's showing me that information in here. It's pulled up my name. I can confirm that. So when you're thinking about immersing, I'm going to turn the volume off.
The system check.
About immersing somebody into a story, this is kind of a neat way of creating that level of engagement and interactivity.
So you address them by name specifically.
Yeah, and then in this case here, it's going to print out my boarding pass here.
No matter where you are in the world, your boarding pass will always show the same information.
So I get to go to Honolulu based on that. Shows up on my mobile device. So it's a neat way of kind of creating. That's what variables can do for you when you're thinking about building interactivity. So there are a couple of other things I'm going to show you real quick because I know these are newer features that some people have gotten excited about.
Yeah,
so
please.
This one here, I'm just going to show it to you. I did not build it. Storyline built it for me. And it's a drag and drop exercise. So it's like, what should I do before I go? And you'll see there's a timer, and I'm dragging the items, in here that I need before I talk to HR, and I have 30 seconds to do it. So if I say call 911 or confront the harasser, those are going to drop back. But if I do it within the 30 seconds, success. You've selected all the correct actions before going to HR. So how did that get built if I didn't build it? And so a newer feature that's recently come out in Storyline is the concept of the AI assistant. And one of the things they've added recently to the AI assistant is the ability to let it build interactions for you. It creates those with JavaScript. So I asked it to build an interaction. It created this JavaScript, which I do not know how to do. I would have been lost, but it's a little bit of the concept of coding for you or vibe coding for you. And so here's a blank one, and I'll just walk you through that process. If you don't know how to do something, but you know what you want to do, I'm going to type something up on another so you don't have to watch me type again. I can come into the AI assistant, and I'm just going to clear this chat, and I'm going to paste in a new one. And basically, I'm saying use JS interactions to create a drag and drop interaction that will allow the user to drag objects into the target object. Now, it's important that I name those objects over here so it knows what it's doing, but I just told it what I wanted to do. And then I hit this button to start the process of creating that JavaScript. So it's writing the code for me. The challenge is if you're building something on your own and it's not right, you can look on, the timeline. You can see where things are coming in. You can go over and adjust the triggers. But in the JavaScript, if you don't like what it's doing, you either have to know how to edit the script or you have to ask more in your prompt. So now here's what I just built on this side. If I preview it, it should be similar to before. It might be different because it's coding it. So the timer's in a different spot, but the same kind of process is going to work for me. I didn't have to build a trigger at all. So then you could come in and go, oh, well, let's see. Correct. So it's a different, you notice that's a different color error message. So those things I would have to now prompt it to change the coloring. Or if I wanted to say, adjust the time to 20 seconds, it'll go edit that code and take the 20-second, 30-second timer and turn it into a 20-second timer. So those are some of the things that are now becoming more and more what people are thinking about doing because they're going, I really have a neat idea. I have no idea how I'd build it in Storyline. I don't know what the triggers would even be. You could ask the AI assistant to take a stab at creating it for you.
Could you please show the variables and the the triggers. Does the JavaScript create triggers?
It didn't. So you come
can
over here, I've got some variables that I created. I
Right.
created these for something else that I was working on. And I ended up not adding it to this course.
Right.
But slide 1.3 is the one that I just showed you. And the total progress scenario score 1, 2, 3 are the ones that I did not use. So it does not create variables to pull this game off. Sometimes you might ask it to do something and it might even tell you, hey, go create these variables for me.
Yeah,
Or sometimes you just say, I want a game to do this, and then it'll start asking you questions. Hey, help me design your game, and it'll ask you questions, and it'll go, here are 3 things. So after you answer these 3 things, I'll build the script for you. So it's pretty fluid like that. It's very similar to the last thing that I was going to show, and we're running out of time, is in the one that I built here. I've got this practice slide. That's still showing the old thing, but now it's actually pulling up an interaction. Tom Coleman and I were meeting earlier this week, and we were talking about I don't know if you follow Tom on LinkedIn, where he's been doing a lot of the character builder stuff. And obviously it's not working that I'm on here, but typically it would work. So this is something too. So now that it's JavaScript, I need to make sure this doesn't stay up when we change slides, because it was superimposed over everything. There it goes. We'll see if this will open up. Yeah, it looks like, but that's using Gemini or Google Studio. And here's the app that I built, because we were talking about building apps, and he's built his character builder app, which is really fascinating. If you don't follow him, he builds a bunch of stuff, and he's been giving away characters. He even built me as a character, even though I didn't ask him to, which is, there it is. It's been paused. So this here, I just came in here and asked this question. Build an app that allows the user to write their response to scenarios around the topic of workplace harassment. So it built this app. So now it's a scenario. A senior colleague frequently comments on your appearance in front of others. And so then you can respond. I would ask him to stop. And you hit submit, and it reads your content, and it'll give you a contextual response over here. And you've gotten a score of 65 out of 100 based on that. Now, that's what I have in. I put that in Storyline so that it would kick in and start. But the thing I haven't been able to get it to do well, because I just built this today, actually. I thought, I'll throw that in there today and see if I can build an app. And it works, but I couldn't get it to show up on the slide quite the way I wanted it. So I was using it as opening up in a new window by using a web object option. But this is you're vibe coding by not knowing how to do anything. So the tools are getting more and more robust, whether you use Storyline, Rise. You can now use code blocks and Rise to do a lot of cool things if you can get the code written. And that's always been out of reach for all of us normal people. If you haven't had a background in some sort of coding, you just haven't been able to come in and say, well, I'll write JavaScript for that. So now these tools, even the AI assistant, can help do that kind of stuff for you. So I know we're down to about 2 minutes. I could send y'all this story if you want to take it apart and play with it. You can always reach out to me if you have other questions about things, but just that's pretty much all I have time for and all I've prepared. But what kind of questions do you have?
Just a comment that the ability to use JavaScript without doing JavaScript coding is tremendous. And I've been using the AI in Storyline over the past year or so, and it just keeps getting so much better.
Yeah, they're working on it. Yeah, and Alicia posted Tom's characters in the chat. Yeah, his wife works for our company, so it's always fun to listen to them banter back and forth about. She complains that all he does is build characters all day. He does more than that, but she just gives him a hard time for building characters all day. But yeah, all of a sudden Sunday night, I'm sitting here watching TV with my wife, and I get a text from Tom with my characters that he's built. I'm going, well, I didn't ask you to build the characters, but here he is building characters on Sunday night and sending them to me. But they look better than me. That's the real thing that bothers me, I think, is when AI characters look better than the real thing, you've got problems. But I look skinnier, which is fine with me, I guess. But I need now it's people go, guy, your character's so much skinnier than you. I'll see you in person. You're really heavy.
Well, people are asking about an accessibility review, and yes, could you show the accessibility thing that down at the bottom? Oh, I can see it down in the lower left-hand corner now.
Down here, I've got my accessibility issues here. Yeah, for this one, I did not make this an accessible course. So when you select that, it's saying, do you want me to suggest alternate text? I don't ever check, don't ask again, because we're always teaching Storyline. So we like for these messages to show up for people. But this would be one of the issues I'm having is I put in a lot of imagery without adding an alternate text. So now Storyline with AI, I can say yes, and it'll go in and fix a lot of those issues for me. So I can just tell it to fix these with AI as well. And so it's going to now start doing all of that once I get it going.
Yeah, it makes the accessibility so much easier. And next month, as I mentioned earlier, Joe Waddington is going to be talking about accessibility issues, if you're interested in that, specifically tab order and how screen readers work.
And if you look at a lot of these, there's a lot of level A, triple A. Typically, we're doing level A and level double A. But there's some things that you can fix, have Storyline fix for you, and other things that are going to require a manual fix. And if some of them, I didn't define my styles and things like that. And I need to review some of the captions that were generated, it looks like, as well.
Well, Ron, thank you very much for spending an hour with us. This is certainly enlightening.
And email me if you want this story, and I'll send it to you. It's not much to it, but it might be something you want to take apart and play with it.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see the JavaScript that it created.
And it used Lara. I don't know if you're into the AI voices. The new default for the AI voices, I'll just show you real quick.
Oh,
They've just changed that this week to where, which we love, under the advanced settings, you used to have to turn on V3. Now V3 is the default. So these voices are you have a lot more control over them. You have a lot more, they're better quality, and the control, you can click on learn more. Like I could even type in something like with brackets. I know this is more than you paid for. I could tell it to whisper.
Oh, cool.
And instead of using we used to have to write SSML tagging in on the old, where you had to know how to almost write an HTML tag to pull off coding. Now you just put brackets and say whisper or laugh, and it'll change how they say sentences. It's pretty slick. Let's see if she whispers. Let's test it. It would be the second paragraph, or when she says take complaints seriously. That'll be weird that she's whispering take complaints seriously.
We're
I
generating
don't want anybody to hear that part of it. Let's see if she does it.
As a manager here at NewCo, it is important that you know what to do in cases of harassment. Pay attention to signs of harassment, like inappropriate comments, unwanted advances, or anything that makes the workplace feel uncomfortable. Make sure to jot down what happens, including dates, times, locations, and who was involved, plus any witnesses who saw it go down. Take complaints seriously and handle them
Isn't that interesting?
confidentially.
That's
Let
great.
the
It's
person
kinda
who's got
cool.
their back and will keep things private.
That's like, and I've done it where like you can type in
fairly by gathering all the info.
like laughing, and they'll giggle as they're starting to say something. So you can give these voices a lot of personality now, which is really fun. And that used to have to go into under here and choose that as the model you wanted to use, because the default was multilingual V2, but V3 is now the default as of last week. It's kind of cool.
Thanks again, Ron. Certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, enjoyed it, John. It's always great. Let me know if you ever need me back, or I can fill in.
Okay, sounds good. I certainly appreciate the offer. Okay, if there are no other questions here, thank you all for participating and look forward to seeing you perhaps next month when Joe Waddington will be talking about accessibility.
Yeah, blessings to y'all. Have a great night. And Ashley, I got your email address. I'll send you this. I'll send you this course.
Thanks a lot, Ron.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, John. Bye-bye.
Okay, my pleasure, Thaddeus. Thank you for joining us. Okay, well, with that, another thank you to Ron, and good night, everybody.